I lost $10,000 renting out a $12,000 car on Turo. I know, guys, everybody wants to talk about the wins, and we've had a lot of those with Turo, but this was one of my biggest losses ever. And in this video, I'm going to go over everything I learned making these mistakes, how this vehicle rental went horribly wrong, and things that I learned from it for the future to make sure I never lose money on another Turo vehicle again. All right, guys, so this vehicle was one I bought very early on in my career. You know, I was wide-eyed. I thought any car I list on the platform is going to make money and it's all going to go super well. And it did do okay at first, but then we ran into some huge issues. So to give you guys a little bit of a backstory, this was the first car I ever did private rentals with. And I did private rentals after being in the industry for 1 year. The issue with that, I didn't know what I was doing with private rentals. I didn't understand the difference with insurance. I didn't understand the risks you were taking with who you rent to. I had no idea about taking safety deposits, having credit cards on file, doing background checks on the people that are renting the cars, as well as having them maintenanced, and it's a completely different system that I was not aware of, and I went into it naive. And why did I make that choice and rush it? I was money hungry because private rentals were going to make me a lot more money, even though I didn't have it set up right. And now, at this point in the game, I know how to do this and never lose money. We do private rentals all the time, so this wouldn't happen again. But at this age, I was money hungry. So I rented this car on Turo a few times, and it was doing pretty well. Overall, no problems. Going on a lot of short trips, maybe like 7 days, 14 days max, stuff like that, which is pretty typical for Turo, unless you're giving your guests like huge discounts for extending longer. But we had a guest that approached me after their trip. They were looking at the car for a while, and they said, hey, you know, that's like something I fell in love with this BMW, she said. Said it was the nicest car she ever drove. It was so smooth. She was completely in love. And I said, okay, yeah, you know, how can I help you with it? And she's like, well, I can't afford to buy it from you, which I never even told her it was for sale. So I hate when people assume they can just buy my cars. Anyways, I guess everything's for sale. But anyways, I was looking at the numbers. She said, I'd like to rent this for, you know, maybe like 6 months to a year and then just pay weekly on it and keep the car in my possession. I want this to be my daily driver. To give you a little background on the woman, she was an older woman, probably in her like late 60s, early 70s. She said she was just taking the car from her home to church. So I was thinking, okay, this seems like a pretty low risk person. Didn't run any background checks. The few times she did rent my cars, I had no issues. She brought back the cars like a little bit dirty once in a while, but overall they were in fine condition, and if they're a little bit dirty, I really don't care. Most people do bring them back kind of dirty. So I'm thinking, okay, that's fine. So at the time I had what was called Lula insurance, which I know a lot of people out there watching this, you probably had Lula or have heard of Lula. Well, Lula went out of business because apparently they were running their insurance company fraudulently, and they weren't technically licensed to be a insurance company. So there was lots of issues with them doing payouts, people getting their money, and actually being insured to do private rentals. But anyways, at this time, this is before we knew Lula was a scam and they went out of business. I was using them, not having issues, but I wasn't having issues because I wasn't filing claims. I decided to use my Lula insurance, and I wrote up a private rental contract. And this was before ChatGPT and AI, when it was really easy to do these type of contracts. So I had a lawyer create me a contract to do the private rental. I had Angela, I won't say her last name out of respect, even though she lost me a lot of money, had her sign the contract, looked at her driver's license just to see if it was valid. I didn't run it through any criminal background checks, anything like that. And then we were off to the races. And what I really liked about Angela, which was really great, she would pay in cash. She didn't have any credit cards or debit cards and no bank. Which, looking back on it now, that's probably a red flag to rent a car to somebody that doesn't even have a bank account or a credit card, because that's not typical to be found in adults. You know, like over 25, you should have like some sort of banking information if you're, you know, you have a job and everything. I ignored it though because I was greedy and I was young and I was hustling. And she's paying me, guys. She's paying me $900 a week to rent the car cash. Okay, so $900 a week is a lot of money. So we're almost talking $4 grand a month on it, just a little bit shy. And keep in mind, this was a $12,000 car. So I thought, okay, 3 months, Angela pays off this vehicle. I have a BMW, I can keep renting, do whatever I want with, completely paid off. And kind of like being paid in cash. That was the first time anybody's ever done that. It's all through transactions. But Angela would come in every single week to make the payment, which was always interesting. A lot of the staff said she was a interesting cat, to say the least. But kept receiving payments from Angela, no problems at all. Then Angela started to become a little bit difficult month 2. She would miss her payment dates. There was always some sort of excuse. Maybe, oh, I had to go pick up my grandson, or, I'm sick, or I had to help out at the church, or one of these things, which I'm not saying that they were all fake. Some of them could be true, but when you owe somebody money, you should make on time. And she was an older woman, so I'm a pretty nice guy. I would let it go. She seemed like a nice lady, just taking the car for church. And if you know me, that would be the second time I got screwed over by older women. I also did a private rental with a Kia Optima, and that's a whole nother story we have in a different video. But that woman stole the car from me, ended up being a drug addict, took my GPS out, had to call a bounty hunter, but we have another video. We can talk about that. But anyways, seems to be the common theme here. Don't trust people, especially older people. Just kidding. But Angela didn't come in to make her payments, and then she still was doing it. She'd come in like every 2 weeks, right? So every 2 weeks then she'd bring her cash and she would just double up the payment and everything is fine. I'm like, whatever, the car's still making money, even though I had to hound her down. And then month 3 comes, I don't hear from Angela for a week, which was unlike her. Even when she was missing her payments, Angela would always still get back to me. So now I'm getting really concerned. I checked the GPS, and what I noticed was really weird. The car wasn't moving for a whole week. And before that, I would look at the activity every periodically. I'm not a stalker. I don't sit there and check the GPS every second. When I first got cars on the platform, I did because I thought it was cool. But I'm thinking, okay, this is really weird. Why is she renting this car and it hasn't moved for a week, but meanwhile she was driving it at least once every other day? Then week 2 goes by, still no response from Angela, and the car hasn't moved at all. And the car was about 30 minutes from our dealership here, where we store all of our rental cars, as you can see. This is where we started our car rental business after I started at my house. Now I rent this piece of property here and have a full-scaled rental car business where we're doing multiple 6 figures here. Hope to even hit 7 within the next year, which will be amazing. And if you guys ever want to learn how to start your own car rental business, or if you have an existing car rental business that you're not able to scale, you have questions on insurance, you need to figure out how to buy the right cars, how to finance them properly, how to do private rentals, I want you to go to carrentalcoach.com, fill out our quick 60-second survey right there, and if you're somebody that actually qualifies to work with us, you'll work with us one-on-one, where we'll be getting on calls and we'll complete a whole roadmap for your business and get you to exactly where you want to be and help you reach your business goals when it comes to your car rental business. So remember, go to carrentalcoach.com, and if you qualify, love to see you there. But back to Angela. So now I'm seeing that the car's sitting there for 2 whole weeks. Now I'm thinking, okay, now it's time to go check up on it, right? Well, Angela finally calls me, ironically enough, the day that we were going to make the phone call. And she says, Mr. George, the car's not working. And I say, yeah, Angela, what seems to be the issue? She says, well, I kept driving it 2 weeks ago and it started making a ticking noise. And I said, oh, okay, did you pull over when it started making this ticking noise? She tells me, well, no, because I had to go places and I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And I said, well, don't you think it's kind of a big deal if a car is making a weird noise? But guys, remember, lesson number 1, nobody is ever going to care about your car as much as you do. Renters do not care. It's not their property. They're not going to take care of it the same. So it's up to you to always make sure it's maintained. And when you have those long-term trips, monitor these people. Make sure they're going to get these oil changes if you have the car out for a while, and make sure that nothing's wrong. And that's the only downside to long-term trips, is if somebody can mess up your car mechanically, but that's why you document everything properly. But so I'm talking to Angela and I'm like, well, were there any other signs? She says, well, there was this oil light that came on in the car and I kept driving. I said, the oil light came on, Angela, and you kept driving the car. I said, how long did you keep driving the car after the oil light came on? She told me she kept driving until it stopped working. So she drove this thing as it's ticking with a flashing engine light and then an oil light coming on the car, and just drove it till it stopped working, got it towed, and didn't say anything to me for 2 weeks. So finally, we get the car towed to our lot. We take a look at it, we check the oil, and it is bone dry. There is not a drop of oil in this car because Angela decided to keep driving even when the warning signs were coming on it. And guess what happened? Why did the car stop working after it ran out of oil? And there was a flashing engine light and an oil light on the car. What do you guys think? Yep, the most expensive thing that could happen. We blew up the motor. And for anybody that knows BMW, BMW is not cheap. It's not cheap to blow up any motor in a car. Like Kias are sometimes a little bit cheaper. But this, oh, it was a $8,000 job to take care of the car. And at that point, it didn't make any sense. I did not want to have over $20,000 invested in a older BMW X3. So right there, I was disgusted. I talked to insurance, and because I didn't have the proper documentation, because I was just starting in my journey, I didn't understand this private rental stuff and how the insurance worked, I wasn't covered. I messed up, and I didn't, check on Angela enough. I should have had the better GPSs too, which I have now, which if we work with you guys, I'll show you exactly what we use. But they would have told me that the engine light came on, but I was using an older one that didn't detect this stuff. So that's why these GPSs are so important, because a lot of times the guests don't want to say when something goes wrong, just like Angela did. So anyways, finally we were able to, we're going to take this car to auction, and we got a price for it already. But guys, I'm going to lose $10,000 on this car. Finally, we're able to move it, got it fixed. It's been sitting here for the last year. I had it paid off. Like I said, this was a car we had earlier on in my career. Finally going to get out of it, but still going to be around a $10,000 loss in total. And, just looking at this thing. Yeah. Yeah. Guys, and part of me, when I heard about this $10,000 loss, made me want to just drive this car off of a cliff. No, I'm just kidding. But man, it might have been more fun to blow it up or something than just lose 10 grand on a $12,000 car. But you live and you learn. This was a mistake I made early on in my career when first starting the private rentals. But really, the big thing is you want to make sure that you get deposits from these people. You want to make sure you have credit cards on file. You want to make sure they have personal insurance you can verify. You want to make sure you have strong contracts. You want to make sure your insurance covers these private rentals, especially mechanical damage, which is always harder to prove than when it's just cosmetic damage. So you have to do different things. There's different procedures that I would love to show you. Make sure that when you're doing long-term rentals like I was with Angela, that you are making sure these cars are serviced and well maintained. You have a regular cycle. Maybe they bring them back to you so you can check on them in person. Take them to get these oil changes that are so needed. And yeah, really guys, always trust but verify when it comes to doing private rentals. So I'm out of money on this car. Overall, I have done extremely well in the car rental business. This was my biggest mess up I've ever had. Everything else is renting extremely well. And you win some, you lose some, but this was an expensive lesson and I will never make it again. So I hope you guys found that valuable. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe to see future videos. And as always, go to carrentalcoach.com if you want to work with us one-on-one. See you guys in the next one.